than they ever had before, but they're falling further behind.
Also at townhall.com, instead of war games, it's a war on words, and it has millions of Americans upset. Veterans and folks from all walks of life are livid today concerning a decision made by the United States Air Force. Tasha Stevens has the story.
Cadets at the United States Air Force Academy in Colorado are being told that they should not say mom and dad, but instead use words that include all genders. According to Fox News, a slide presentation titled Diversity and Inclusion, What It Is, Why We Care, and What We Can Do, advises cadets to say parent or caregiver instead of mom and dad, and instead of saying the phrase colorblind, say color conscious. Tasha Stevens reporting.
And more on these stories at townhall.com.
Hi, I'm Al Avaroa, founder of Knight Strategic Wealth. Inflation is a problem, markets are volatile, and the risk of running out of money in retirement is real. That's why I love annuities, and you should too. Your financial advisor doesn't want you to know that with our annuity strategy, when the stock market goes up, you earn a market-linked return that locks in every year, and when the stock market goes down, your annuity won't lose a dime. There are no unnecessary fees, and it works for your investments, money at a brokerage firm, or even money at a bank. It's simple, it's safe, and you should only invest if you learn the facts. And that's why savvy investors work with us. Want to learn more? Text FREE to 833-898-0500, and we'll send our retirement readiness kit directly to your phone right now. If you want to use safe, low-fee annuities to build a retirement portfolio that will go up with the market and never lose money, get our Retirement Readiness Kit today and see how this strategy can help secure your future. Text FREE to 833-898-0500. Text FREE to 833-898-0500.
From the News Talk STL Newsroom, I'm Joey Vasevich. In a federal lawsuit filed Tuesday, BNSF Railroad asked for a preliminary injunction to require the victims of a deadly June 27th Amtrak crash in Missouri to use arbitration rather than proceed with their lawsuits in court. BNSF also asked the judge to halt action on lawsuits pending in Missouri courts until the arbitration question is settled. An innocent woman was shot in the thigh at Courtesy Diner on Hampton yesterday after 4 customers ran out on their bill. An employee ran after the customers, but they got away. As the employee walked back to the diner, shots were fired at the building. The State Historic Society of Missouri has launched an initiative to collect memorabilia before Route 66 turns 100 years old on April 30th of 2026. According to the Historical Society, organizers hope to collect items such as photos, postcards, videos along the route, records of roadside businesses, and anything that pertains to Route 66. St. Charles Oktoberfest starts today at 4 p.m. and goes through Sunday. The festival, which takes place in Frontier Park off historic Main Street, offers a variety of events and attractions, including a 5K, a dachshund race, broad eating contest, an antique car show, and children's area. And in sports, the Cardinals beat the Padres 5-4 in San Diego last night. Next up, the Redbirds head to LA for a 3-game series against the Dodgers. Tonight's game starts at 9:10 p.m. For in-depth coverage of these stories and more, go to newstalkstl.com.
So many ways to listen to News Talk STL.
Come join the conversation.
Enable our Alexa skill. Hey Alexa, play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
Always streaming at newstalkstl.com or on your radio at 1019, 94.1, and 99.1 HD3. News Talk STL. News, analysis, and opinion. Welcome home. From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm News 4 meteorologist Leah Hill with your first alert forecast. Today marks the first full day of fall. Fall officially began last night just after 8 p.m. And it's feeling fall-like. Temperatures mid-60s. It is breezy as we get those winds around 10 to 15 miles per hour. Additionally, you can anticipate some scattered showers through the afternoon, eventually tapering off by the evening. A cool night with temps in the 50s, back in the 80s tomorrow. That's been your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Leah Hill.
We know what's going on.
When it's important to you, stay informed.
Call me extreme if I want stable prices, affordable energy.
The FBI way overstepped their authority.
We've got a leader, Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans, who is trying to divide the nation at this point in time.
They call us the fascists and the Nazis, and it's like, yo, look at yourself. They're just trying to provoke a reaction out of us.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by House Sold Easy. Looking to sell a house fast? Call David today at 314-293-3000. That's David with House Sold Easy at 314-293-3000. Tony Colombo.
Libertarianism is all about individual liberty.
Katie Fitzpatrick.
tax cuts. If we expand on that, we're going to have to rely upon the governor to expand that call and give us the right to send that to him. It's a little convoluted, but I am very hopeful that this coming week we're going to see some big tax cuts coming out of the House, and I'm going to have the opportunity, if nobody else is going to put forth an amendment which is going to increase those tax cuts, because I think ultimately we've seen from other states like Tennessee, Texas, Florida that have a zero income tax. And they're booming. I mean, look at Nashville, Tennessee right now. Look at Tennessee as a whole. If we can just mimic their steps and not do what Kansas did. Kansas cut taxes, but increase spending. We need to do both. We need to put more money back in the people's pockets and stop expanding government and start shrinking it again.
What has been, in I don't know if I misread you or if this is exactly what it was when you said like, well, we're still going and like, It seemed like, no, it didn't seem like. I mean, definitely my opinion. I think many others on the regular session earlier this year that the big sort of headline of it was frustration, and that not nearly as much got accomplished as I think people had thought or hoped going in. It just seemed like for some reason this year in Jeff City there was something stopping.
It was madness.
Progress from getting done. Is that same frustration of just not being able to push the ball forward happening right now?
Yeah, it's a little bit different. I think during the regular session there were a lot of personal attacks that we heard in the Senate. Republicans attacking Republicans. And I've been one to say, let's get the team back together. Let's all come to the table and figure out where we can come together and continue to push the party platform. And in the party platform, we have cutting taxes, being responsible and shrinking government down to a size you could put in your pocket, so to speak. And it's a different frustration right now because we have a super majority in the state of Missouri in the House and the Senate. We could basically pass anything that we wanted to if we could bind together. And that's one thing that, even though I disagree with the Democrats on 99.999%, the one thing that they do have going for them is they come together. Look
unity.
back at Obamacare. Yeah, the unity. They didn't even know what was in Obamacare. And they were willing to just say, all right, my stamp of approval. Yeah. Now, granted, we are, I want to say we're not that type of party. We're not just going to pass anything.
Right.
And that's, I mean, yes, let's have the debate. But on tax cuts alone, we should all be able to come to the table and say, yes, let's shrink income tax. Let's get rid of personal property tax. Let's get rid of real estate taxation. But at the same time, find ways with all of this revenue that we have to continue funding our first responders and things that are very important to government, like infrastructure.
Going back to this, to the general session at the beginning of the year, one of the issues that I think probably falls into the category of what you're talking about, and certainly, something Katie and I talked about a lot, was the sports betting issue. And at the beginning of the year, it seemed like sports betting was something that was just going to get done. It seemed like everybody was basically on the same page. They had ironed out a few things, but sports betting would be passed and done this year in the legislative session. Of course, it wasn't. There was all the drama with the filibuster and all the things that happened around it. And then now it's a story that we covered this week. And yesterday we actually had Pat McGonigal, our old friend who used to work at Channel 5 here in St. Louis, who now is an anchor in Kansas City. And the story of the week sort of surrounding the state of Missouri is that with the brand new law starting in Kansas, they just approved sports betting. And it just went into effect on September 1st, just a few weeks ago, that a lot of Missourians, especially ones that live on the western side that are close to Kansas, are now just crossing the border and generating revenue, spending money. Pat was talking about how he has his own DraftKings lineup, and he has to. He can set it. He can set his lineup and do certain things while he's in Missouri on his phone, but he has to drive across. He has to be in Kansas to actually place the bet, and then he can drive home.
And I don't know how true this is.
That's ridiculous.
But I've heard, and this is back when, I think last year, I had a friend who was sports betting in Illinois, and he said if you change your VPN, if you change your location on your phone or your laptop to make it appear, and I think you have to buy a new VPN that makes it look like you're in Illinois or looks like you're in Kansas.
That makes sense, actually.
You can spend your hard-earned money, and they're going to benefit from Kansas, Illinois, anywhere where you're placing that bet, they're going to benefit. And that's something that, we passed the sports betting out of the House, goes into the Senate, it dies. There's several different issues there, and I'm very hopeful that this year we can get all the players to the table because these video lottery terminals, you see them in gas stations, you see them in Knights of Columbus and different halls like that. they're already there. Now, there has to be a bill to make them legal because there are certain questions as to the legality of them, and I'm not going to waste time getting into it, but the video lottery terminals and sports betting are kind of fighting one another. And the proponents of the sports betting are saying, all right, let's get this done, and then later you can come and get the VLTs done, the video lottery terminals, where some people say, look, once we get that done, once we get sports betting done, all of your efforts going to go into trying to kill the VLT. So threading that needle and getting both done, I think, is going to benefit our economy. Stuff's already happening in the state of Missouri. I've seen it with my own eyes last year where people are sports betting, but other states are getting the benefit.
But that is stuff that would not be addressed until January, correct?
Right.
That's not something that would fall into this special session.
Yeah, there was a hearing. So there was a gentleman, Dan Houks, representative out of Southern Missouri, ended up filing a bill in the special session. It didn't match the governor's call. So the governor would actually have to expand the call for special session to address that. And I guess in talking to the governor's staff, he's indicated that, look, it's not ironed out. An agreement has not been reached. If there is one, then yeah, sure, let's expand the call. But as of right now, we're only going to limit it to these tax cuts and the agriculture tax credits, which almost died. It almost died in the Missouri House this week.
So what? Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You go first.
I was just going to ask whatever progress, whatever plan is agreed on, whatever progress is made in this special session. When do you expect that the time frame for that to be? Is this something that is going to be lingering for weeks, or is there a deadline that you have to be done by? When will this special session be wrapped up?
I would think, due to the fact that there are several members in the Missouri House that want to amend the bill coming over from the Senate, where this week that bill from the Senate's going to go through the committee process. It's going to hit the floor, I think, Wednesday or Thursday. Then it's going to go back to the Senate if we do anything to it. So I think we're going to be in the middle of October. Katie might have a baby by then.
That's true. That's very true, and it's coming up quick.
What will be here first, Katie's baby or the end of the special session?
You know what? I would
Let's
say
make a bet.
No. I would say the baby.
Yeah, there you go.
I would say the baby will be here.
Nick, I have a question, and I don't mean to steer this all the way back to 2 questions ago when we were talking about the supermajority in both the House and the Senate that the conservatives have. I think a great question that needs to be asked, especially for someone who needs everything broken down in layman's terms, because I'm pretty average when it comes to local politics, even national politics. What is the biggest controversy besides like these maybe like language, maybe name calling? What is the biggest controversy that is holding up the Republicans and conservatives that hold this supermajority? What is it that is drawing this party not together and pulling them apart? Why can't it be? I mean, I know everybody thinks differently. I know people have different ideas on policy. But whenever you think about it, like, we should have our act together. We have a lot of power here. We should have our act together. There should be a lot of things set in motion. And it's a little bit discouraging to hear that the Democrats, I mean, even though that they're all kind of basically just voting on policy together and being like, yes, this is great. It sounds like pandering. This is wonderful. It's discouraging to hear that they have so much unity left and we're still fighting over what?
Yeah. And why? Yeah, that's a great question. What is there one kind of thing, or what is it that keeps the Republican Party from having that cohesiveness?
I think there are some individuals that, years ago would have been a Democrat. We're proudly Democrat. And for a variety of reasons, and we've seen this. And I ran against somebody during my first go at it back in 2016 who had been donated by, the Republicans donated to him. He ran as a Democrat before, had the support of Democrats before. So I think we have a lot of Democrats that are coming over, like in Georgia, the Project Veritas video that came out that displayed, look, the Democrats' new thing is running as Republicans because they know that they can't get elected anyway else. So I think there's a little bit of that. There's a little bit of this old school mentality from some of these people that maybe used to be superintendents, maybe used to be on school boards, and they're more beholden to the superintendents or their local officials instead of beholden to the people. And I think once we get back to that, once we start realizing that this representative republic that we live in works best when we listen to the people, that's where I think we can come back together. But it's really discouraging when you look at Florida, Texas, Tennessee, states that have far less Republican numbers than we do, And they're passing these big things.
Yes.
Tax cuts, stopping critical race theory, stopping indoctrination, passing school choice. And that school choice thing, which is going to be one of my top priorities, as well as fighting crime, that is a situation where we do see a division in the Republican Party. There's some that still say, oh, no, wait a second. My school board, my superintendent says X. But the people are saying, no, we want you to pass school choice. We want to do what's best for our kids.
That is State Representative Nick Schroer. Can you stick around? You going to stay
Absolutely.
in the studio for a little bit? All right, great, fantastic. Nick is going to stick around with us here on a Friday afternoon, and in just a moment, we are going to address some of the national issues of the day with Mark Lauder, Chief Communications Officer at the America First Policy Institute, former Special Assistant to President Trump. There's more developments in the drama surrounding the migrant southern border story, so we'll get into that and more with Mark Lauder in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Colombo and Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
You're listening to Colombo and Katie. Follow Tony Colombo on Twitter at Tony Colombo Talk. Whether at home or at work, you're mobile. So when you're mobile, stay mobile. Keep St. Louis's home for conservative talk with you wherever you go. Download the News Talk STL app in the App Store or at newstalkstl.com.
Along with this great time of year to be back outside, taking advantage of the temperature change, one of the great things that is a perfect time of the year to be doing is, of course, grilling, taking advantage of getting a chance to get outside and do some barbecuing, do some grilling. And the next time you are doing so, make sure you have Rockwood Lump Charcoal with you. Rockwood Lump Charcoal, not only is it a local business, a local company, Jonathan Hesselup right here, Rockwood Charcoal based in the St. Louis area. Also, Missouri is the #1 charcoal maker in the country. So you're supporting a local business, you're supporting a local industry, but also you're using the best product available because Rockwood Lump Charcoal has been ranked the #1 consumer rated charcoal across the country for 8 or 9 years running now. So it is literally the best of all worlds. Lump charcoal in general, especially Rockwood Lump Charcoal, is just a superior product. If you've never used it, if you're used to the briquettes, Rockwood Lump Charcoal it burns cleaner. It burns faster. It burns hotter. You have a lot more control over the entire process. It's just a superior product, and it makes your grilling experience and the food that you are cooking all that much better. You can find Rockwood Charcoal at over 100 area stores, and you can find the closest one to you. Plus, pick up some grilling tips and tricks all at rockwoodcharcoal.com.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Rhino Shield is engineered to outlast paint, formulated to outsmart the elements. Rain or shine, sleet or snow, mold or mildew. Our home exterior coatings intelligently designed to stand up to Mother Nature. Call 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Well, folks, we all made it to Friday. We'll have Hans Vons Makovsky at 425, Dr. Aaron Hedlund at 525 on Joe Biden's inflation.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 3:30 on News Talk STL.
I'm sitting in a tree, swinging in the breeze. I'm looking at the blue sky, smelling it so
Welcome back to Colombo and Katie on this Perry Woods Friday. Every Friday we play bumper music from our good friend Perry Woods. Don't forget to support local music. Download Perry's music everywhere you download music, and also download other local bands and get out there and maybe on a great weekend like this, go see some live music. Going to get the weekend forecast from Chief Meteorologist over at Channel 4, Steve Templeton, here in just a few minutes. Also, in the 3 o'clock hour, we'll have a little Friday fun time to get you ready for the weekend. So that is always a lot of fun. And as I mentioned, joining us now on the phone is Mark Lauder, Chief Communications Officer at the America First Policy Institute, former Special Assistant to President Donald Trump, back on the show with us. And Mark, as always, appreciate your time on this Friday afternoon. How's it going?
It's going great. Great to be with you.
You bet. So for people that are watching on the cameras as well, you see me and Katie, but also in studio with us hanging out today is State Representative Nick Schroer. So you may hear an extra voice in the room. Representative Schroer is here with us, Mark, so you may hear an extra voice as we have this conversation this afternoon. Wanted to start with this. We've been sort of covering, Katie and I have really, like, the biggest story of the week for us on this show, and you know, obviously probably the biggest story of the week, you know, across the media, has been the continued drama, the sensationalism surrounding the southern border and the migrant crisis. And, you know, we've gotten to the level of where we're throwing out words like kidnapping and human trafficking and human smuggling. I mean, it's just getting ridiculous. The latest today, I want to read this story, and then I want to get your reaction to it, Mark. Media and Democrats point fingers at Republicans for border crisis, not the White House. Left-leaning media figures, as well as Democrat politicians, are reigniting their claim that Republicans are to blame for the border crisis occurring under the Biden administration. A editorial this week in the Los Angeles Times said that DeSantis and Texas Governor Greg Abbott, that's their recent callousness in sending migrants in Democrat strongholds across the country. It only further destabilizes a dysfunctional immigration system, which they say is marred by political stonewalling, not poor border security or bad policy. It's the Republicans' fault. It's not poor border security. It's not bad policy. It's Ron DeSantis and his bus tickets that are the problem. Mark, what's your reaction to that?
I mean, you can't even. I mean, that's not even a joke worthy of Saturday Night Live, as bad as they are.
I mean, it's truly unbelievable. But I mean, it really does. It doesn't highlight the Democrat playbook, their strategy. No solutions. Just what to be afraid of and who to blame for all your problems in life. But no answers.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And I mean, here again, once again, we see the Democrats, the left, and their mouthpieces in the mainstream media basically just try to tell the American people that don't believe what you see, believe what we tell you is actually going on. And the American people aren't that dumb. I mean, they actually know that the border was secure a couple of years ago. And then all of a sudden, magically, January 20th of last year, all of a sudden now the border is not closed. It's wide open. We're actually on track this year, in the last 2 years, to have added over 4 million. 4 to 5 million is now the estimate of illegals that have been at the border, the getaways. I mean, we've got 78 people on the terror watch list that have been stopped. I mean, think again, what got away? And they can see it with their plain eyes. If you're watching Fox, if you're not watching that, you're not seeing it because none of the mainstream media will cover it. But they see the streams of people just flooding in. And, we actually had a poll done. I think the Washington Examiner had it this morning, that we did a poll on this, and luckily, thankfully, a majority of the American people believe what Governor Abbott, Governor DeSantis did was the right thing. I mean, these were supposedly sanctuary cities. It was a great bumper sticker.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, come here. We're welcome. Everyone is welcome in California. Everyone's welcome in New York and D.C. and in the liberal la-la land of Martha's Vineyard. We're welcoming to everyone until you actually got a small taste.
Mark, this is where
for those.
This is where I think I'm having trouble understanding, though, and we all understand that the Democrats have this large plate of hypocrisy that they're always showing, but they call these names like human trafficking and kidnapping when it comes to Ron DeSantis and Governor Greg Abbott. But before these two gentlemen took the initiative to say, we're going to start busing illegal migrants to different areas, we're going to start flying them to different areas, that is what the administration was already doing in the dead of night. We had people from Heritage, the Heritage Foundation, coming on our show, Jim Carafano being one of them, Dakota Wood being the other, who are experts in these fields, saying last year that the administration was already flying illegal migrants all across the United States, putting them there, saying on a hope and a prayer and good promise that they'll come back for their court date, whatever that was set up, and then letting them do whatever they wanted to do. Why is it kidnapping and human trafficking when Governor Abbott and when Governor Ron DeSantis do this? But we know thousands upon thousands of illegal migrants were already having that set in stone a year ago because of what the administration did.
No, you're absolutely right. In fact, for all of their whining and moaning, they were actually sending them directly into Florida without telling Governor DeSantis when they were doing it. They were landing them in Jacksonville. And so, the hypocrisy knows no end. And the answer is not to name call and all these little fake stunts, because the stunt is actually trying to charge the governors with crime or accusing them of crimes, when the problem is, and then you've got all these sanctuary cities begging for federal resources, using the National Guard, using the military. How about you send all those resources down to the border and stop the flow of immigrants to begin with?
Amen.
Mm-hmm. Mark,
that is the answer.
I want to take advantage of your expertise from a former life, when because you've worked obviously very closely with President Trump and also former Vice President Mike Pence. So going back to that expertise and your experiences there, it's not just the media that is saying these things. It's the White House, it's Democrat politicians. And here's what Karine Jean-Pierre said to a reporter on MSNBC this week. She said, "The system is broken, and we know that. It was decimated by the last administration. And what we're trying to do is fix something that has decades and decades of deterioration." So blame Trump. It's a problem we inherited, even though 10 of the last 14 years, Joe Biden has either been president or vice president, so I don't know how that holds up. But was the system, as Jean-Pierre says, was the system broken? Did Donald Trump destroy the situation at the southern border in the 4 years that he was in the White House?
No, he actually started to work to fixing it. And the reason why, I've got the benefit where I work at the America First Policy Institute. The former acting Secretary of Homeland Security, Chad Wolf, who was the Homeland Security Secretary for the last 18 months of the Trump administration, was the one that was actually building the wall and securing the border. He highlights this very well, and he said the difference between the Trump administration and the Biden administration, the Biden administration views the migrants as a processing problem, that they have to get more people processed and through the imaginary gate. And it's interesting because when you watch what's happening on the border right now, the migrants are not running away from Border Patrol agents. They are running to them. They want to be captured or taken into custody because you'll get a couple of days, 2 to 3 days of hot meals and clothes, your vaccines and all this stuff for free, and then you get sent off into the middle of the country. Under the Trump administration, we saw it as a problem of deterrence. Don't come here in the first place. It's not about processing you faster. It's about getting you not to come here in the first place. And also, if you did come here, the brilliance of the Remain in Mexico policy was you don't get to come in here, disappear into the middle of America, and then 3 years later skip out on your court date. And then 15 years later, hear the liberals whine, but they've been here for 15 years and they've got jobs and families. We can't send them back now. No, you stay over there until your number is called. Then we'll talk to you at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it just seems like it's common sense in so many different areas. And really, that's
and also one point I think we cannot stress enough, and nobody really talks about this. It's for all the people who are saying that we've got to feel compassion for the refugees, for those who are seeking asylum, and we do. But they're not even following the asylum laws, because the asylum law says that you've got to stop in the first country you come into that is safe, where you're safe from persecution if you're actually being persecuted. So there's about 4 or 5 countries most of these these people are coming through before they get to the United States.
Yeah, who have stricter border and immigration policies than the United States does.
Correct.
And because that's one of the most frustrating things, I think, that as you learn about this issue and many others, unfortunately, it just seems like there's some policies or practices in place that just don't make any sense. Mm-hmm. And as you learn about these things, it doesn't have to do with compassion anymore. It has to do with how did we let this get to this point? Like you just alluded to, Mark, just signaling that the border is open. I mean, that's not fair to the migrants that are traveling, when we know that under the Biden administration, basically the message, because we're hearing from these migrants as they cross the border, they're saying well, the communication we're getting is that the border's wide open. So that's why we traveled here. That's why we went through this. I mean, if you have compassion for those migrants, you don't send those false messages to them knowing that it's much more complicated to that once they arrive, right?
And I'll tell you one other key piece here, and this is the scariest thing about this entire situation, is that when you see the video on Fox of the lines of people, hundreds of people long, traipsing across the river, looking, and they're taking up all of the effort and the manpower of Customs and Border Protection to get them processed, to make sure they're not drowning. But what you don't realize is that because the gangs, the cartels, are funneling all these people in these large groups to take away all that attention, about a mile down the road is where all the gangsters are bringing the fentanyl in, where they're bringing the cocaine, the heroin, because all of the manpower is focused on that group of migrants and making sure that they're A, safe, B, they're processed, B, everything goes through. But because of that, they're using that to their advantage to basically then get all of the people, all of the cops away from that crossing a mile down the road, where they're going to bring in all the fentanyl that's killing people in every single community that we go to.
We're talking to Mark Lauder, former special assistant to President Donald Trump and chief communications officer at the America First Policy Institute. Speaking of America First, Mark, capitalism is something that has served America well in our history, but obviously under attack again this week from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Representative Cortez made a statement this week pointing out the burdens of capitalism. Mm-hmm. The burdens of capitalism was the quote, and we could get into the specifics, but we've heard that message before. How dangerous is it, if you are looking out for America first, to entertain the idea that capitalism is the evil system that we need to get away from?
Well, I mean, it just underscores why we have to come together. It's not about Democrat and Republican. It's about freedom versus socialism, and freedom versus what I'd dare say is communism, which is what the Squad and where the Democrat Party is going right now. It's what you see. I mean, you literally have their Senate candidate in Pennsylvania who's saying, you know what, if governor candidate saying, we'll release 1,200. Everyone convicted of second-degree murder gets to go free. I mean, they literally want to take over every aspect of our lives. They did it through COVID. They saw that they could start to get away with it, where we could just start paying people not to work. And this is what we really have to confront, because this is not just an election problem. It's not about 2022 or 2024. This is a problem that they have been marching down this path for many, many decades, and we have to stand against it, because we're the last hope. We are always just one generation or, an apathy away from seeing America turn into Venezuela or China, which is what their ultimate dream is. I mean, look even over to their progressive dream states in Europe that are largely failing. And the only reason why they have all of that money to do all their social programs is because they don't pay for their defense. They rely on us for it.
Mark, there's something interesting that happened that Tony just put a shockwave in my brain to remember this. When we're talking about progressivism and what it means to be a progressive person, progressive Democrat, as they would say. Rashida Tlaib actually came out like yesterday, maybe the day before, and said, you are not a real progressive if you still support the government of Israel. You cannot be placed as a progressive on what she deems qualifies you as a progressive and other people of the squad if you still support Israel. And I thought that was such a, going to what Tony said about them, like, absolutely hating capitalism and promoting socialism. There's a lot of barriers I think we're learning about the squad when it comes to what these main leaders of the squad believe is super progressive. And if you do not follow what they have to say, if you do not follow their agenda, then you truly are not progressive. Is that the case that you believe that you're seeing with people like AOC and Rashida Tlaib, that they're putting up these barriers maybe to differentiate themselves from the old school Democrats, from the more centrist liberals, definitely from the Republicans, but it feels like they're closing that tent on what it is to be a progressive, and if you don't believe what I believe, then you're out of the club.
Oh, absolutely. And the problem is that as they gain more and more power, and they are gaining more and more power, they're wielding more and more control over, various pieces of legislation. But I'll scare you even more because they're actually putting this into action. Because buried inside President Biden's speech at the UN earlier this week was his talk about reforming the UN. And they want to reform the UN Security Council. I'm not going to go too into the weeds on it, but they basically want to allow other states and other countries to start having being able to override the vetoes of the 5 permanent Security Council members. Well, guess who cast the most vetoes in the UN? It's the United States. Guess why we cast most of the vetoes in the UN? It's to push back against anti-Israel proposals, legislations, condemnations that are coming from the radicalized UN. And so here we go once again, that where Joe Biden, in something that seems innocuous, if you're not paying attention, you think, oh, well, that makes sense. We should give more power to more countries and all this. And, why should Russia be able to just veto something that we want? But what they're secretly trying to do is to make it where the U.S. could be actually vetoed or have it overridden, and then the anti-Israel sentiment and anti-Israel actions would take further hold.
And here's unfortunately, we're just about out of time, but I think that the message there is the reason that it's gotten to this level, the reason that we are seeing, if you're hearing Katie tell that story, or you're reading headlines that seem to be more and more and more extreme, and you just can't believe how far they've gone. Well, they're doing that because they've gotten away with it. They keep getting away with it. They keep they keep taking steps further and further to the left, and nobody's stopping them, and they're having a certain amount of success doing so. So it's a perfect message as we get closer and closer to November elections.
And to highlight that fact, let's remember how close we came, how close they came. They came one primary away from nominating an actual socialist who took his honeymoon in the Soviet Union when it was still the Soviet Union and praised Cuba for their government in Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So close to having Comrade Sanders be their nominee for president if it wouldn't have been for Jim Clyburn saving Joe Biden and pulling him out of the jaws of defeat.
No, you're absolutely right, and that's why it's an important message to remember as we get closer and closer to the November midterms. Mark, thanks as always for your time. If people want to keep up with everything that you guys are working on at the America First Policy Institute, what is the best way to do so? AmericaFirstPolicy.com. You can also follow us on Twitter, A1Policy, Instagram, all of that. Just got back from a 3-day bus tour across North Carolina, and we're now heading over to Georgia and Nashville later this week. Nice. Thank you so much, Mark. We'll talk to you again very, very soon.
All right.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Great stuff there, as always, from Mark Lauder, Chief Communications Officer at the America First Policy Institute. Nick Schroer, if people want to keep up with what you guys are working on, not only in the special session in Jeff City right now, but also what you're working on personally, I would recommend, if you like a little social media entertainment, that you follow Representative Schroer, what are all the best places to do that?
Just go to nickschroer.com. It'll link you up. It'll show you where the Facebook is if you want it G-rated. If you want it a little bit of craziness, it'll link you to my Twitter. Or you can just tune in to this station, 8 p.m. Sunday night, to stand and fight with me and my conservatarian trio.
That's right. Every Sunday night, stand and fight here on News Talk STL. 8 o'clock on Sunday nights, and also on your favorite podcast platform.
Absolutely. Apple, Spotify, everywhere.
Absolutely.
Thanks to Katie.
Subscribe to the podcast and tune in to
My pleasure.
Stand and Fight with Nick Schroer every Sunday night at 8 o'clock here on News Talk STL. All right. It is a Friday afternoon, which means we are going to check in with our friends over at Channel 4. Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton going to join us in just a few minutes to give us the weekend forecast. Got some more headlines to dive into, and we'll have a little Friday fun time before we hand things over to the Tim Jones and Chris Arp show at 3:30. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Colombo and Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
You give me a feeling.
Stream Colombo and Katie at newstalkstl.com. Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL. St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
Here's what the illiberal left does not get.
Live and local.
We're at least going to talk to the person who is on the ballot, and let's see how serious she is about running.
This is News Talk STL.
The Range St. Louis West is Missouri's best indoor shooting range. With 20 climate-controlled lanes, over 70 firearms available to rent, and the best staff in the business, you're guaranteed to enjoy every minute of your time with us. Our impressive showroom is full of the latest and greatest offerings from the best manufacturers in the business. Need an optic, spare magazines, holster, or any other accessory? Let our professional staff help you find exactly what you need and get it installed for you. Mention you heard us on News Talk STL and save $100 on your membership and enjoy even more goodies. The Range St. Louis West. Are you ready?
Since 2007, the state of Missouri and local governments have handed out almost $5 billion in tax subsidies or abatements to private developers. That money could have gone to basic services like schools and public safety. And studies show these subsidies don't produce the promised jobs and growth. If developers want to build a sports stadium or shopping mall, why should they be given our tax dollars to do it? It's time to reform economic development subsidies. The Show Me message has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Puts my heart and soul in the air. My mind and body exists to please you. Whenever you're down, I'll be there to help you smile. When you need satisfaction, I'll go the extra mile.
Welcome back to Colombo and Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Friday afternoon, as I mentioned, that means we will have a little Friday fun time in the 3 o'clock hour after the top of the hour news before we hand things over to the Tim Jones and Chris Arp's show. And it being Friday afternoon means it is time to get the weekend forecast. As we do each and every week at this time, we talk to Steve Templeton, Chief Meteorologist over at Channel 4. And man, it has been a weather roller coaster this week. So, it's not easy to predict what's going to be happening, even in a 24-hour period right now in St. Louis. So, Steve, thanks as always for joining us this afternoon. How's it going?
My pleasure. My pleasure. We're going to continue to ride that roller coaster you mentioned.
Yeah.
Because we have more changes coming our way. First things first, have the umbrellas ready for the next few hours. We still have some light showers that are going to move through. It's a good bet for some rain clipping St. Louis, probably through about 6. Now, by about 7 o'clock on, I think the rain is going to be a little less widespread, less steady, so it's still some isolated showers in the forecast that can get you wet this evening for your evening plans. But my hope is that it breaks up enough and is isolated enough that maybe we can get those football games in, Oktoberfest in St. Charles, Taste St. Louis, just so much going on. So if it's a little widespread for the next few hours and then breaks up, that would be ideal. But have the umbrella handy. We're going to dry things out for your weekend, though. It's going to be warmer Saturday. So back to T-shirts and shorts. Okay, sweaters today, T-shirts tomorrow. Mostly sunny, 85 for the high. We're at 57 in the morning, which is nice, but it warms quickly. Mostly sunny and 85 no humidity. So it'll be a nice, pleasant 85 degrees. Sunday, mostly sunny, windy, 15 to 25 mile an hour winds and a high of 78. So temperatures dial back a little bit Sunday, but that's still pretty mild, upper 70s. And I think really nice weekend coming our way. In fact, all next week looks very fall-like. Low 70s for highs. We may dip into the 60s one or two of those days. Most of the days, sunshine, lows in the upper 40s near 50.
Nice.
I mean,
Okay.
you like fall weather. You're gonna like next week.
All right. You know what? More than anything, I just like the idea of some consistency.
Yeah.
So you feel like
you and me both.
so you feel like next week maybe we not obviously don't expect anything long term, but at least maybe a good chunk of days, a little bit of consistency, and not the crazy differences, the roller coaster that we saw this week.
Exactly. I think we get off the roller coaster rides for a little bit and enjoy some nice fall weather next week.
Did we get to one of the days, either Tuesday or Wednesday? Did we get to 98? What was the high?
It was Tuesday. We got to 97, which was a record. And we also hit 95 or hotter for 3 days in a row, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And this late in the season, that's never been done in recorded St. Louis weather history.
Whoa.
So, this late, 95 or hotter, 3 days in a row. And then all of a sudden now we're sitting it's 60 degrees and there's rain.
What is you know what? I have a question about that. I have a question between why it was 97 and now it's this. Is it like a cold front that came through? Like what came through?
It was weird because usually there's rain. Usually there's a storm.
Yeah, like something
big drop like that. But it just kind of happened this time.
Well, we did get, when the front came through, we did get those downpours briefly during the kind of latter half of the evening drive. That was 2 days ago, right? So that'd be Wednesday evening. So that was the front moving through. But really, I think the bigger question is why were we at 97 degrees that Tuesday? And there's this big upper level pattern that builds this dome of heat. And you hear us use that term, this dome of heat. It's a big high pressure in the upper levels of the atmosphere that just is conducive to really hot weather. You hear us talk about that in June and July and August. And that pattern developed for us this late September and really built in that major heat. So we were kind of sweltering a little bit for a few days there. But yeah, cold front came through, got a few downpours Wednesday evening, and now yesterday was cooler, but now the reason we're really cool is because it's been cloudy all day and we have some rain, so that's really suppressing the temperature. If it were sunny, we'd probably have a high like around 74 today. But because of the clouds and rain, we're in the 60s.
Yeah, it's this time of year in St. Louis, and so I know that there's not necessarily a normal, but where should we be right now? Like, what would be like
what is the normal
average right now if there was one?
So normal low for tomorrow, for instance, is 58, and normal high is 78. And I have a couple days, so Saturday's above normal, Sunday's normal, and then the rest Monday through Friday of next week should be just a tad below normal, but really pleasant. But 78 would be your normal.
Gotcha. So Sunday is kind of like the day that we should be having right now.
Yeah.
Is that a fair assessment? One more question about, we got the rain going on right now, and it seems like we've not gotten very much rain recently. What's the current situation as far as that's concerned? Is it, are we in a, do we need rain? Have we gotten about the right amount of rain this year? Is it just, am I just kind of misreading the situation?
We haven't had like consistent rain, that's for sure. We got that quick little dumping on Wednesday evening, but even that, like the heavy rain was in spots. So there's spots like Eureka or the airport that got hit, O'Fallon, Illinois got hit, but then there's spots that maybe only got a tenth of an inch. So not everyone got hit hard. And even today, today's rain is not going to be a real big dumping of rain. So I believe we're still probably running above normal. I haven't checked recently, but we just haven't had a lot of rainy days. But that's also typical. We're starting to ramp down from the rainiest part of the year to more the drier part of the year as we get into the cooler fall weather and a little more stable. And for instance, next week all looks dry. I mean, after the rain this evening and tonight, we're going to see things dry out Saturday through at least Friday of next week.
Well, even 85 tomorrow, if it's sunny and not raining, it sounds like it's going to be a great weekend. And it sounds like Next week.
One thing.
Go ahead.
One thing I wanted to mention, because last time we talked about Fiona, and I want to mention down in the tropics, there's something kind of brewing. It's called Tropical Depression 9. It may turn into what will be Hurricane, I believe Hermine is how you pronounce it. And the reason I mention that is if anyone has friends or families anywhere from Tampa to Naples, that kind of southwestern part of Florida, or maybe you're traveling there, by Wednesday of next week, there's going to be a tropical system that could impact Florida. So that's going to be something we're going to watch for the middle of next week around Wednesday.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, good heads up. Definitely keep an eye on that for people that may be traveling or, like you said, have friends or family in that area. And as we talked about last week, we're kind of getting into that season. So the discussion about hurricanes, may be something that we're having more and more often over the next several weeks. Steve, really appreciate you, as always, joining us, and really appreciate it when we get a forecast like that. I'll take the rain for the rest of the afternoon and evening if we get a nice, dry, sunny, fairly mild, not too crazy hot, especially on Sunday weekend. So thanks so much.
There's a nice payoff after this rain.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Steve. We'll talk to you next week. Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend. Take care, guys.
That is Steve Templeton, Chief Meteorologist over at Channel 4. Really appreciate everything they do for us all week long, keeping us informed on the daily forecasts, and for joining us every Friday for the weekend forecast. All right, got a little more headlines to get to. Senator Tim Scott has introduced legislation that would withhold funding from schools that keep secrets from parents. I'm okay with that.
I'm down.
So we will wrap up some headlines and get into a little Friday fun time in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Colombo and Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
It would make my life so complete. Baby, won't you just stay?
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. Doug and Safe Money Radio is on 3 times every weekend, but in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com or call 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233. Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP. Member FINRA and SIPC.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
There's a guy named Chris Bank. They're threatening to take him to court by City Hall because he has too many sunflowers in his yard. The principle of the matter is if you want to plant flowers, it's your house.
Yeah. I would be so upset about this. At like 2 o'clock in the morning, I would be planting sunflowers in their yards.
Yeah.
So that all of a sudden, they get their own crop of stuff. I'd be like, I don't know what happened.
Weekday mornings, 5:30 till 9 on News Talk STL.
Talking about the change in weather and how it is finally starting to maybe consistently move into the more fall-like weather. Anytime we are making these changes, you're going to be changing the settings on the thermostat in the house. And if you are experiencing any issues as we go through this transition, make sure that you call our friends at Agers Heating and Air Conditioning. Doing right by the customer is their number one priority. Just a couple of years ago, right around this time of year, when we turned our furnace on for the first time that season, it didn't work. And, that is a problem. And thank goodness that Brian Agers and the team at Agers HVAC were there to take care of our home, whether it be repairs or replacement. They've got you covered. They'll give you all the info you need to address whatever issue you are having. And if you notice something, don't wait. Don't let a bad situation get worse. Call Agers and learn more on the website at callagers.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Jason Walker. Iranian state TV says the death toll of protest over the murder of a 22-year-old woman in police custody, now more than 24.
The Islamic Nation's state-run media has reported demonstrations of hundreds of people in at least 13 cities, including the capital, Tehran. Now videos are emerging showing crowds protesting and security forces in riot gear firing and chasing protesters. The protests had begun as an emotional outpouring over the death of Mahsa Amini, a young woman held by the country's morality police for allegedly violating its strictly enforced dress code. In a further development, people in Tehran and some other cities are planning to hold a counter-protest rally after the Friday prayers. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
Also at townhall.com, the Pentagon providing a new food and housing program for the troops.
The Pentagon has unwrapped a number of new programs aimed at helping service members who are struggling with housing shortages, higher rents, steep food prices, and living expenses as they move from base to base. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin ordered the efforts, which include discounted groceries at commissaries, expanded child care, and helping spouses find work. Austin also ordered increases in the basic housing allowance in 28 areas where rent has spiked more than 20% above current allowances. With growing competition from corporations seeking to hire young people in the tight job market, the military services are struggling to meet their recruiting goals. I'm Norman Hall.
Boeing has agreed to pay $200 million to settle charges of misleading investors about its 737 MAX airliner following two deadly crashes. On top of that, a former chief executive of the company will pay $1 million. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Relief Factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
Hi, my name's Adam Barada. I'm the owner of Advantage Gold, the highest rated precious metals firm in the country. Now, we've won the Best of TrustLink Award 4 years in a row because we educate our clients on how to buy gold and silver the right way. We don't pay celebrity spokespeople millions of dollars. We'd rather pass that value on to you. Call 800-900-8000 and speak with one of our experts. We'll send you a free gold kit along with my latest national best-selling book, The Great Devaluation. Call 800-900-8000. Call 800-900-8000.
Predictions of a major gain of at least 40 House GOP women next year after the November midterms. More from correspondent Bernie Bennett.
Representative Elise Stefanik of New York is focused on women candidates to boost her party's efforts to retake control of the House, predicting that the number of Republican women in the House will jump next year. Stefanik said in a briefing Wednesday, quote, "We're building towards 50," about the success of her Elevate PAC, or EPAC, that endorses female candidates, predicting that the number of House GOP women will blow past 40 this cycle. The number of Republican women in the House dwindled to just 13 after the 2018 election, but the number more than doubled after the 2020 election when 32 female Republican representatives won seats. Bernie Bennett in Washington.
Officials in Hong Kong say they will no longer require incoming travelers to quarantine in designated hotels because of COVID. City seeks to open up globally after nearly 2 years. Breaking news and analysis, townhall.com. Tennis great Roger Federer says he was paying attention when Serena Williams played what is expected to be her final match 3 weeks ago at the U.S. Open.
Not surprised. Just very similar to me. I think in many ways we were expecting it to come at some point. I'm just not sure if it's for real or not.
And Federer says the future of tennis remains bright.
I'm a big believer always that tennis is bigger than anybody, and it will always create new superstars because we just have too many highlights. We do so much press, as you know, that it allows to know the backstory of the player.
Investors did pick up a few bargains late in the day, but when all was said and done on Wall Street today, still a lot of red. The Dow lost 486 points. S&P 500 was off 65. More on these stories at townhall.com.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm
News 4 meteorologist Leah Hill with your first alert forecast. Today marks the first full day of fall. Fall officially began last night just after 8 p.m. And it's feeling fall-like. Temperatures mid-60s. It is breezy as we get those winds around 10 to 15 miles per hour. Additionally, you can anticipate some scattered showers through the afternoon, eventually tapering off by the evening. A cool night with temps in the 50s, back in the 80s tomorrow. That's been your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Leah Hill.
Friday Fun Time on Colombo and Katie. Brought to you by All Solutions Pest Control. 636-486-7888. Or visit them at allsolutionspestcontrol.com.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
Long on a Friday, a little guitar sounding, music from Perry Woods on your radio.
We get it, Tony.
That's the words.
We get it.
That's the lyrics. That's the lyric. You turn it down?
I'm turning it down.
Yeah, I'm just going to get rid of it.
I'm just going to...
It's probably the right thing to do. That's probably the right thing to do. Welcome back to Colombo and Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. One more segment to go for us on this Friday afternoon. Before we hand things over to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show, we will have a little Friday fun time here in a moment. Got a couple other stories we want to get to you first, and also a quick reminder that you don't ever need to miss anything that happens here on the Colombo and Katie show. In fact, you don't ever need to miss anything that happens on any of the shows here at News Talk STL, because we all have YouTube channels, we all have podcasts. You can subscribe to the Colombo and Katie podcast on your favorite podcast platform, whatever it may be, Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, all of those places and more. Just subscribe to the Colombo and Katie show so you never miss anything. We post the show as a podcast shortly after the broadcast every single day. You can also subscribe to the brand new Colombo and Katie YouTube channel. You can watch the show live stream every day there on the YouTube channel and watch other fun videos, serious videos, silly videos, all kinds of stuff on the Colombo and Katie YouTube channel. And, of course, you can also follow News Talk STL on Facebook and Twitter and Rumble and on our website, newstalkstl.com. It's everywhere. We're everywhere.
We're everywhere.
We're a big freaking deal. So make sure you are checking us out. All right. As I mentioned, Senator Tim Scott has introduced legislation to withhold funding from schools with secretive gender transitions. This has been in the news a lot lately, specifically surrounding the idea. We've seen school districts all over the country coming up with policies where they will, if a student, and we're not talking about like just high school, elementary, like at every level. If a student tells a teacher or an administrator that they identify as a certain gender, then that schools in these districts, the policy is that that's what they will refer to them as, right. And that's all. But, which, okay, that's one discussion to be had. But then the next step is that many of these policies also ban telling the parents. They the policy specifically states that that information will be kept from the student's parents. And that has caused a big backlash across the country.
Rightfully so.
Yes. So Senator Tim Scott this week pushed a bill to combat indoctrination in schools, that's his quote, by cutting off federal funds from public elementary and middle schools whose staff addresses a student by a different pronoun or name without parental consent. The South Carolina senator introduced the Parental Rights Over the Education and Care of Their Kids Act, to ensure parental rights over their child's education by, quote, preventing schools from concealing information about students' gender from their parents. The Protect Kids Act, that's what all of that spells out, parental rights over the education and care of their kids. Protect. The Protect Kids Care Act would withhold federal funding from any elementary or middle school that allows students to change their pronouns, gender markers, or sex-based accommodations, including locker rooms and bathrooms, without the consent of their parents. Senator Scott said, quote, parents across the country have grown rightfully concerned by school policies that push a radical agenda that's kept secrets from parents. It shouldn't be controversial to say that parents should have the biggest voices in their kids' education, yet powerful unions and bureaucrats continue to keep parents in the dark about curriculum and administrative policies. It's unacceptable. My common sense bill sends a clear message that parental rights must be a top priority for student safety and success. Amen, Senator Tim Scott.
It's insane to me that when we talk about teens, or, I mean, anyone under the age of 18.
Yeah, this bill only talks about elementary and middle schools. The fact that it has to even be specified, the fact that this has to be, that this policy, this bill has to exist, shows you how rampant this is across the country.
But why in every other aspect, in every other way, if you are below the age of 18, you are a minor. You are still, your guardians are your parents. They need to be involved in every decision that you make. You cannot go out and, I mean, there are so many limitations for what you are able to do in society if you are under the age of 18. So to me, when we talk about pronouns and gender identity and transforming bodies and puberty blockers, how in the world are we living on a planet that it's a sane idea to hide that from parents? If everything else everything else is under the age of 18, your parents are your guardians. They're your legal guardians.
How is that healthy for the kids? What kind of message does that send? Even if there are difficult situations, and I know that is a thing that exists, but how can instilling this idea of keeping secrets from parents and be healthy or productive for a child's mental health and development? If they're being told in elementary school that it's okay to keep secrets from your parents because they
might not know what's best for you.
They're not important. Yeah, they might. Yeah, their decisions might not know. Yeah, they might not know what's best for you. That's a great way to put it because, and I mean, what is that? What message does that put in there? That questions, that puts doubt in kids' heads, and I mean, it's just, it's ridiculous.
And we're either we are talking about kids or we're not. Either we're saying that all of these other expectations and burdens that we should not be laying upon the feet of children before the age of 18 apply, and I would categorize you going through a body change, stopping your hormones, changing your pronouns as a very, very big decision. I would categorize that as an adult decision. Either we can lump that as a sane society into these kids really don't know what's best for them at this age right now, or we're living in cuckoo crazy land where kids run the household. Kids know what's best for them. They can make every single decision. They direct the parent around. They keep secrets away from the adults. That is not a society where I want to live in.
It's scary that like I said, it's scary that this bill even needs to exist because.
But I'm glad it does.
The simple existence of it proves, that if there's a solution to this problem that's being put out there, it shows you that the problem is real and rampant across the country. One more story before Friday Fun Time.
So speaking of gender identity, the United States Air Force Academy in Colorado is encouraging cadets to apply for a fellowship program for gender minorities that specifically says cisgender men do not need to apply. The Academy sent out an email September 14th informing cadets that the 2023 application for the Brooke Owens Fellowship for undergraduate women and gender minorities interested in aerospace is due by October 10th. The application on the fellowship's website says if you are a cisgender man, this program isn't for you. If you are a cisgender woman, a transgender woman, non-binary, agender, bigender, two-spirit, demigender, gender fluid, genderqueer, or another form of gender minority, this program is for you. If you are a cisgender male, this program isn't. But
there can't be that many categories.
There cannot be.
There just can't be.
But we encourage you to check out our spin-off program, the Patty Grace Smith Fellowship, and then they list another program that these cisgender men can apply for. The USAFA's email said the Brooke Owens Fellowship is a 9-week paid internship at a leading aerospace space company, and any undergraduate who is a woman or gender minority is welcome to apply. I understand that whenever we get into like college or we get into different programs, like they have things for minorities specifically. That's fine. I don't really care about that. I still don't understand.
Like scholarships.
Yeah, like, there's different scholarships and things for minorities
Sure.
and programs for them to go through. Mm-hmm. What I just listed off to you as the numerous different genders in this that now I guess society is saying we have is a little bit ridiculous, and a little bit ridiculous to also say cisgender males. If you're a straight man that you identify as a man, you should not, this isn't for you. You shouldn't apply to this.
Yeah. Can't.
Yeah. This is not, you're not applicable to this.
It goes back to not only the LGBTQ issue, debate, whatever you want to call it, it goes back to the equality debate that as we claim, a lot of these groups claim to be fighting for equality for various groups, whether it be race or sexual orientation. Instead of equality, it's reverse racism. It's not equality. It's we get the benefits now, and the other side is the one who's not allowed or not invited or voice doesn't matter. And that's not equality. That's not evening
the playing field.
I
also am like
reversing it
in
keeping racism and segregation and
all of that alive
that we need to get rid of.
When we look at cisgender, we look at transgender, those two things, I'm like, okay, like I understand those concepts. I get that. If you are transgender, that has no effect on my life. You do you, and I will call you by your pronouns.
Amen.
But when you have to list on a military application two-spirit, demigender, gender fluid, gender queer, this is where I'm like, okay, we are talking about a military application, and we are accepting the fact that there is something called two-spirit. We're accepting the fact that something is demigender. Like, I'm cool. I'm very libertarian when it comes to transgenderism, anything like that.
Amen.
But holy cow.
Live how you want to live, love who you want to love.
We're not about to be saying if you equate yourself to be a furry, here is a military application that you can sign because you're part of the category of this. If you want to study aerospace and you identify as a cat, you're the person that can apply to this. That's a little bit ridiculous to me.
Yep. And as you said, this is a military program. Unbelievable. All right. Let's lighten it up a little bit here before we turn things over to the Tim Jones and Chris Arp show. We've talked a lot about the I keep saying we got to do taste tests on the show. We got to try some of these ridiculous things. I saw for the first time in person, I saw a can of Coke like in line at some store the other day, and it was like, I knew it wasn't the regular Coke, and I was like, what is this? And it was like one of the one. It was
the
like
Dream one. I saw the Dream one.
Pixels or Dream.
I saw that one.
Yeah, that's the flavor of the soda.
That's so, but yeah, it was like orange. It was like an orange and vanilla-y.
I know I keep saying we got to do these taste tests, but we got to do these taste tests. Pepsi now getting into the now getting into the situation. They've now created marshmallow soda, chocolate soda, and graham crapper.
And you don't want that one, guys. Surprise!
That's not the one you want.
Don't
Do
want
not
that
buy
one.
the graham crapper. No, graham cracker sodas. So they've created these new flavors, and they say you can drink them separately, or you can take all 3 sodas, pour them into the same glass, so you have a s'more.
Here's where I'm at.
Pepsi.
I would do it.
Oh, yeah.
I would do it. This is where I'm at. If we're talking about Coca-Cola products,
Anybody watching on the camera, Katie had the most serious eyes.
I would try that. I would, because I think that sounds good.
So they're releasing the 3 new sodas separately as their own thing, but they're saying you can just drink the marshmallow soda, or if you want to, or just the chocolate.
That would be like a cream soda. That's what
But you can also buy all 3 and mix them together and make s'more Pepsi.
I think that sounds really good. I think that like a graham cracker Coca-Cola. If it's a Pepsi, I don't know. I ain't a Pepsi girl.
Oh, really?
I'm not a Pepsi person.
Over Coke
no
all day.
way, Tony. No way. No way.
All day long.
Pepsi, no. Pepsi is Syrup City. It's Syrup City. But I could see like a marshmallow thing, like more of like a cream soda kind of vibe.
I love cream soda.
I think it could be that. I would. That sounds good. I would try mixing all of them together.
75% of pet owners in America plan on dressing up their pets for Halloween. 75%. That can't be right.
I think that is right.
Really?
I would actually. That sounds like.
Does Marty
right.
get a?
No. He does not get a costume. But I know plenty of people with dogs that are very patient that do not mind. The dog doesn't seem like they mind dressing up. Marty, not his thing. Not his thing. Chewing off that costume in 2 seconds. What about Molly?
No.
Well, I don't think you and Christine.
She's one of them. I don't know if you've ever seen a dog that does, like, if you put a costume on them and they just freeze. They don't know what to do. They're like, this thing's on me. I don't know if I can walk.
Why
like,
is this thing on me?
Yeah.
I love that.
No,
I love it.
No.
I wonder how much a pet costume costs.
Oh,
I'm gonna look that up.
It's across the board. Like, I mean, you can buy cheap, definitely like cheap little chintzy ones that you just like,
it
like,
is across the board.
Put a headband on them or something like that, or you can get
There's
pretty
a $30 pet costume.
Oh yeah.
No way.
Now I have bought them before, just
you have
for a funny photo op, but
and how did it work out?
Yeah, I mean, various results.
Some of these are funny.
Various results. Okay.
Mixed reviews.
So 75% of Americans say they're going to buy their pet a Halloween costume. 20% of Americans say they don't mind having crumbs in their bed.
Ew.
Dude.
I never eat in my bed. I cannot eat in my bed. No.
I can. It's not certainly not like a my favorite place to eat, but crumbs?
Ha!
I'm a psycho when it comes to crumbs in the bed. Like,
oh yeah.
If I feel one
about what that
piece
attracts.
of debris, one thing that's not supposed to be there.
I agree. Me too.
1 in 5, 20%. 1 in 5. A new survey says that 1 in 5 Americans say they don't mind crumbs in the bed.
In fact,
where are we at, people?
I am not even someone that eats on the couch. I do not eat food anywhere but a table. I am like, I hate the idea of crumbs.
Because of that?
I don't like the crumbs. I don't like the idea of food particles being somewhere that I am not aware of. Because think about, we talk about All Solutions Pest Control.
Yeah.
That must be one of the things that they always, crumbs and the ants and the bugs that crumbs attract. I'm like, no, thank you. And I know All Solutions Pest Control, that's probably one of their main things that they harp people on. Like, don't eat outside of the dining room.
Yeah. When we were looking and when we were looking at homes, you could see, some homes that had been on the market for a little while, that had been vacant for a while, but still had like some kind of food or something was left on the counter. Like, yeah, they get the bugs find a way to get in.
No.
So if you've got crumbs laying around
crumbs on the
your
bed,
floor, your beds.
How do people sleep with crumbs in the bed?
Dude, 20%.
How do they sleep with crumbs? I can't.
20%.
That makes me laugh that you're like wiping down the bed. Me too. If I feel one thing, I'm like, ah!
That is one of my. That is a big one for me. Crumbs in the bed. That is a. That is a non-starter.
We out.
All right. We are out. That is going to do it for us today. Have a great weekend, Colombo and Katie. Back on Monday at 2 o'clock. The Tim Jones and Chris Arps show coming in now to take you through the rest of your Friday afternoon and get you to the weekend. So stick around, and thank you so much for listening to us and supporting us here at 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
You're listening to Colombo and Katie. Follow Katie Fitzpatrick on Twitter at KFitzTalks. If you find yourself feeling out of place in the world, it's comforting to know conservative values haven't been abandoned everywhere.
The far left wants to destroy